Welcome to the Free Range Families Podcast, where we, Britt
and Christina, show you the beauty of homeschooling through a lens of faith
and freedom,
and always a bit of humor. This episode, we are going to talk about Homeschooling 101.
Yes. 8 steps for homeschooling.
Right.
So I love this because I actually put this together in an article, but it was to really help new families.
And I'm just going to...
Yeah, what's up?
I'm going to totally push your articles right now. So Brittany is an amazing writer, guys. And if you haven't followed her Substack, you have to follow her Substack. It's great information. She puts out articles. How many?
I do like 2 to 3 a week.
Right. 2 to 3 articles a week that are just fantastic about homeschooling, about
parenting and
parenting. Such great information. Follow her Substack.
Oh, yes. Well, you have to link it in the thingy things.
I totally will link it in the thingy things.
Okay, sounds
So
good.
Brittany doesn't do social media. So when thingy things is code for all the different social media accounts that you can find us on, which is like a lot. That's me.
I just write and read.
You write, you come up with the ideas, and I make all the ideas happen.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's a very good team.
I know.
It is a good team.
All right, so we're going to talk about 8 simple steps to get started on homeschooling, because I know a lot of people are really interested in homeschooling or wondering about homeschooling, but when you don't know what to do, it's so overwhelming, and people think like, oh my gosh, I cannot do this, but you really can.
It can be crazy.
It can be, but there doesn't have to have that kind of insanity going on. You just need some simple things to look at.
Well, this is a good process here.
Right.
So they're like, hey, I want to homeschool. What do I do?
And I'm going to link your article on this because your article goes into a lot more detail on this. I'm going to link this on this episode underneath all that stuff.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, so number 1.
All right, so familiarize yourself with your state's laws.
Yes.
So this is a huge one because there are different laws in every state. Like every state. Fortunately, Arizona, where we are here, has limited or non-existent. They're like, we have
you want to homeschool?
A lot of freedom
Go for
here.
it.
Yes, you fill out an affidavit saying that you are going to teach reading, writing, arithmetic.
I'm going to
science,
teach my children.
Whatever, by the age of like 6 or 7, I'm pretty sure. 7. And then that's it.
That's it. And you fill it out once, one and done.
Yeah, that's it.
And then you are on your own to provide your children with the appropriate education that...
Yes. On that topic, though, I would tell everybody that is listening, that is wanting to homeschool, that after you familiarize yourself with your state's laws, you need to become an HSLDA member.
Yes.
Because if you aren't sure, their website has like a ton of information about what's happening in Idaho, what's happening in Illinois.
So a quick story on that. So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually was homeschooled for a year of high school. So I went to my high school for 9th grade. And then in 10th grade, I was doing a lot of... This is all so embarrassing. Modeling and acting and all that stuff.
I did that too. Yeah.
So anyway, I was doing a lot of that in New York City.
You can find her on Oxy commercials. I totally just
execute them. Thank you. My name was Kim, and I had hot pink pimples to go with my hot pink velvet.
Go down that YouTube wormhole.
What are you guys wearing at Kim's surprise party?
Uh-oh.
Kim! I think I'll wear my hot pink velvet to go with my hot pink pimples. And maybe... I don't think so. We'll oxycute them.
Oxycute pimples with Oxy pads. Oxy's powerful medicine breaks up zit-breeding oil. Oxy pads used to help prevent, destroy more pimples than Stridex or Clearasil pads. Pure pimples.
Oxycute them.
1990s. I was, like my commercial aired on Beverly Hills 90210, right?
Yeah.
I was like peak 90s, whatever.
Love it.
Anyway, so while I was doing that, obviously I was not in school. I was doing things. And so I was homeschooling for that year. Or about a year and a half, I was homeschooling. And we actually had some issues with the state of New Jersey and with the town and all that.
Going
my
back
mom,
into it?
Yeah. So my mom, she signed us up and we had to use their legal services.
Yep.
And they helped us. And that was part of why I actually left early and decided to get my GED. And I sat there because of the legal issues that we had, because they were calling us truant, even though I could prove that I was in advanced college. My mother was a college professor at that time. And so I was like, I was taking college level courses. And so I just said, you know what, forget it. I'm getting my GED. I'm going to college. Wanted to get rid of all that. But it did really help. So if you are not a member of that,
I think it's $130, $140 a year or something like that.
It's worth it.
It's not super steep, and it is worth it. Especially, I get their feeds. They fight. There was another thing, I think it was in Louisiana, where the kids weren't getting into colleges, and so they come in and they help, and
just the resources they have available on their site. Especially, they have resources for everybody, but then a paid membership gets you even more resources, and they're invaluable.
Yes, I agree. So after you do number 1 and you familiarize yourself with the state's laws, you need to register for HS.
And I will say there are easier states to homeschool in and harder states to homeschool in. I mean, we started homeschooling in Pennsylvania, which required so much more documentation. New York State is very difficult to homeschool.
California, you have to report everything you do.
Everything. Yeah. So you do need to know what is expected, because you don't want to get yourself into a situation where you are going to need that legal.
No, I agree. I 100% agree.
So know your state laws. And that's a really simple thing just to look up. I mean, everybody's got Google. Go Google it.
Yeah, HSLDA.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So then you withdraw your child.
Yeah, you do it.
With whatever legal documentation
you go into the principal's office and you say, I am done and thank you for whatever, and I am pulling my kids.
I like to just bring a mic and just drop the mic. I'm out.
Yeah, whatever it was. You got to do something. And then I've mentored some parents where they write a really nice letter to their school saying these are the reasons that I'm leaving. Or you just say, hey, I'm not returning, and you fill out the affidavit. And I think you have 30 days, well, at least here in Arizona, from the time that you leave the school till the time you pull them out.
I'm of the mindset that it's nobody's business, so I'm out.
Yeah, I know.
Bye.
Yeah. Exactly. No, 100%.
Sorry,
I love it.
I don't.
I had to. I was part of the PTA at my school.
So was I. I was PTA president.
So I was like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Now I'm out. So they had an idea, and the eyes I got, and the crazy. It was.
I know.
It was
but you know what? You got to do what's best for your own children and their education. That is our role as a parent. We have to do what's best for our children.
Yeah. Is before. So we withdrew. And then it was a year or two later, COVID hit, and everybody was homeschooling. And then it was the cool thing to do. Or you hated it. You either loved it or you hated it, or you realized what exactly was happening in school.
Well, I also feel like that 2020 chaos was not – that's such a bad example of homeschooling of
It's not homeschooling.
It's not. When you think of my kids were learning at home. No, they were not learning at home. The computer – oh, gosh. Don't even
get me started on the computer thing.
All right,
there's times for computers and there's times for not.
Absolutely.
Yes. All right. I like the principal approach. Pen and paper.
So I love point number 3 that you make, because
it's
I don't
super
think
important.
enough people understand why this is important. Point 3, decompress or deschool.
Yeah.
So this was really hard for me as a public school teacher because...
Well, it's just because it's you, Christina.
Yeah, I'm a little type A.
It's okay.
But it's hard. It is hard to go from having this idea of what school is supposed to look like.
Constant structure.
And then structure. Mm-hmm. And also, I think because I taught high school... Mm-hmm. There is more structure in high school. Everything was done differently. And I was teaching my kids in 5th and 7th grade like I was teaching my 11th grade AP environmental science class. I had to decompress my own brain and go, whoa, hold up. It's okay if we don't get through these 8 subjects today. I literally started my kids off with what looked like a high school curriculum, 40-minute blocks. And I'm like, what am I doing?
This is so I'm so glad you're putting, because a lot of times, a lot of the people I mentored, this is what they do. They try to replicate public school in their homeschooling because they don't know how else to do it. But it's so wildly different than public school. There's so much wasted time.
Oh, yeah.
Lining up, going to the bathroom, eating lunch, lining up, going to the bathroom, eating lunch. Can I repeat?
Sitting still,
how do we line up, going to the bathroom?
You know what was funny? So after 2 years of homeschooling, my oldest Zen, when he was going into high school last year, he said to us, he's like, I may want to go back. Let me just do a shadow day. He did a half-day shadow day at a high school. And I remember going and picking him up. Now we got him into like all of the upper level honors classes because that's what he would be going into. They tried to pair him. Like the school was great. They tried to pair him with a kid of similar interests. So they walk around and follow things. And I picked him up at the end of the school day and I was like, hey, how was it? And he just gets this like awkward smile on his face. He goes, I'll talk to you in the car. I'm like, okay.
I love it so much.
So we get in the car and I'm like, what? He goes, I do not want to go back. He's like, I forgot how much wasted time.
There is a ton of wasted time.
He's like, a 40-minute class, 10 minutes was spent on roll call and going over, make sure you write down the assignment and does everybody have their stuff out? He's like, I could not believe how little instruction was done.
Yeah.
He's like, I would have gotten done what they did in the whole class plus the homework.
Yes.
In maybe 15 minutes.
This is why,
like
Dorinda Wilson, have you read her books? Okay, she writes the 4-hour school day, 4-hour. It's literally so true. I teach all 3 of my children in 4 hours a day, maybe 3 or 4 days a week, probably 4 days a week because I like more. We do. Yeah. Yep. And then like Fridays, we're still doing school. It's like art or music.
Yes, it's the extracurriculars, or it's when we get together with our group when the kids, have activities.
And so it still is school, but it's the social aspect of school. And trust me, they know how to line up in a line.
Yes.
Okay. And they know how to behave because we have high expectations of our children.
Right.
But decompress and de-school, to unpack that a little bit more, means that you don't do anything with your children. In my mind, you or what you're doing is allowing them the freedom to wiggle around in their house, read books with them, get out of the structure because they're used to waking up and eating breakfast and doing this and doing this. And that can cause some children and parents a lot of anxiety because it's so different. So they need to get used to the fact that, hey, Johnny, you can sleep in till 9. It's okay. Catch up on some sleep. Like that was important for me. My kids were exhausted.
Oh, yeah.
So let's catch up on some sleep and maybe do devotional this morning, or let's catch up on some sleep and we're going to binge watch something that we haven't been able to watch. And for 30 days is what I would recommend, at least that. You just don't do anything. And while that is happening, it's time for moms and dads to get whatever you're going to do with your children together. It gives you a time to think curriculum. How do I want to manage the house? Because when you're homeschooling, you're not just teaching them anymore. You're doing everything. You are now the medic and the psychologist and the cook and,
we did some
everything.
We did some fun activities like
we
did
trips.
Deer.
Yes.
We did drop everything and read time where all of us, my husband, myself, like all of us would just drop everything. I would just scream it out, deer. And everybody would like freak out and like, okay, grab your books. And what we found was that was actually really important for me as the teacher to see, how do my kids do this? So my oldest loves to just like be in his room and he likes to be in his element and he'll just read silently. My little one would be underneath the table. I used to call him my yoga baby because like I actually have a picture, a sonogram of him in my stomach doing yoga, like he's folded in half. But that's how he reads. He'll go under tables with his feet up and he's reading, but he's reading. But like what we realized during that decompression time was how they felt comfortable learning, how they felt comfortable doing things. And
then you can assess and structure your homeschool plan around that.
Like I know that with my little one, I absolutely cannot have him sit still for an hour and try at a table and work. Like that doesn't work. Yeah. So we have to have movement. We have to have activities. We have to give him, he has to have different places to do different assignments.
How I taught Jace his ABCs, not to cut you off with movement, because I see similarities. He's like Alvin from Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'm not joking, but I put him on the trampoline with chalk, and I wrote out the alphabet and he'd have to bounce to each letter. It was letter recognition, because otherwise if I put him down with a pen and piece of paper, and this is where public school did not fit. Right. And I'm not saying that we have high expectations of our kids and we want them to be behaved and we want them to be respectful. But at 6 or 5, when you're learning letters, having the expectation of a kid sitting still and regurgitating and writing, doesn't work all the time.
I think we do it. This is a whole other podcast, but I think we do a huge disservice to young boys who are not programmed, are not designed to sit still at that age, and we require them to. I lucked out.
There are those that do really well with it, but
Some
this is again like assessing your child.
Right.
Yes.
But I will say that Max had a wonderful kindergarten teacher where she actually saw that in him, and I am so thankful to this woman, like probably one of the best kindergarten teachers on the planet, because she saw that in him, and she would constantly be sending him out of the room to do, here, go run this down to the 5th grade classroom, which was like the other side of the school. And she's like, you have to skip this down. Yeah. You have to hop on one foot down. Like she knew when he was getting there, and she was amazing. So like, again, some teachers are absolutely great at this, some are not. But I mean, as a high school teacher, I saw it also, the medicating of our kids. I mean, I would have a kid totally turn in like a completely different child, and 100%. Not in a good way. But anyway.
No, but Ryan, so like full disclaimer, Tourette's runs in my family. And it's an umbrella term for OCD, ADHD. See, I can't even. My brain works overtime, and I have to tell myself to slow down. But when my oldest was in school, he was ticking really bad. It's not the cursing type of Tourette's, but it's like twitching. And he had the headphones and the chewy necklace and like all the things, right? But they wanted to medicate him. Yeah. Like immediately. And it was like, I just could not do it. So we changed our whole lifestyle. We cut out dyes, we implemented, we live on a homestead, but we had to make these decisions. And now you would not even think he has Tourette's. He does not tick. And if he does tick, he knows his triggers. And
stress, so, a lot of times. And again, school situations are extremely stressful. That's why this decompression time is so important, because when we decompressed, same thing. Max has a lot of those little issues too, and those little tics. Even Zen had huge anxiety, and all of that went away.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different deal.
And
they can be themselves, and they're not worried about it.
Yeah.
So we kind of skipped over 4 though.
No, I mean like
we included 4 in our 3 because while you're decompressing, you're evaluating your child's goals and learning styles.
Yes.
So, and to me, you can go on the learning style quiz, but there are like kinesthetic or auditory visual. You can make a modge-podge of it. I tend to teach in a modge-podge because all my kids have various learning styles. So like if we're studying something, there will be a video included, and then hands-on project, that kind of thing.
And that's just something that, and so I actually have a master's in special education, and I'm like a thesis paper away from a doctorate.
Do it.
All that. But never again. No, thank you. But one of the things that like they did teach us was that, even though people have general learning styles, we all learn better with the multiple styles. Yes. So even though your main style may not be auditory, still including that helps your brain function and exactly. So it's really important to assess where your kids, or how your kids, are learning best, but then make sure we're also including things that are outside their comfort zone, because that's the world, people. Well, like you're going to have to learn how to do everything.
Prepare them. Yeah. So like Summer is super auditory. She could listen to something and then she memorizes it, and it blows my mind because I cannot do that. I have to see it. Like I'm very visual, but she memorized all her continents and states and oceans. I mean, like multiplication facts, everything through song. Oh. So then when she's sitting down, she has to be in a different room.
I know.
Stop humming, sissy. But she's like, listening to the song. But I still make her do everything else because she has to be well-rounded.
Because you have to be able to function in society, and society is not going to. There's knowing how you learn best, but then there's also being able to just be a productive member of society.
I agree.
So, establish a curriculum and teaching style, number 5. And it is so important to tell new homeschooling parents.
I think you're going to say what I'm going to say. Let's hear it.
That you're going to establish a curriculum and teaching style, and then you're going to throw it out the window
that's
7 times until you try something else and try something else. And then maybe like 3 or 4 years in, you'll find something that works, and then they're going to change, and you're going to have to throw it out again and do it all over.
100%. You cannot be afraid to change, what you're
mid-year too. If something isn't working, fix it. That's the beauty of homeschooling. Yeah. Like, and I used to do this in my classrooms when I was teaching my high schoolers. I remember one lecture. I was teaching AP Environmental Science to mostly juniors and seniors. Okay. These are like cream of the crop kids, top, like whatever. And they just could not get this one concept. And it was a difficult concept to get. but they couldn't get it. And so I'm teaching it, and I just remember throwing up my hands and being like, stop, this isn't working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold up. And I was like, I need 5 minutes. I was like, talk amongst yourselves. And I was like, I'm thinking to myself, how else can I try to teach this? And then I just started doing something wildly. We started looking things up online. We started talking about it. And I had to completely
trash. It's okay. No, you had to
I talked
trash.
too much with my hands.
You had to trash.
I'm from Jersey, okay? So I had to trash what I was doing, totally change it up. Did not go according to the approved advanced placement curriculum, but it worked. Yeah. They got it. They understood it. And then we were able to backtrack from that and then figure out how they were supposed to, because it was this whole calculation thing. Yeah.
So on that same topic, when you're establishing a curriculum and teaching style and kind of playing into 4 too, one of the things that I mean, my youngest is 7, and I'm realizing that he does not operate well without physical exertion in the morning. So if I sit down and we do devotional, I'm like, hey, sit down, we're doing devotional while you're eating breakfast, and then I just jump right into school, he will have a terrible, horrific, awful time. So I make him go jump on the trampoline or run around the homestead until he can come in. I don't care if he's sweating because he cannot focus. Yeah. So, but that we don't allow that opportunity in school a lot because it's, you know,
we have exercise dice for Max. When we see him starting to like fidget and get up, we're like, here, throw the dice. See what you have to do.
It's perfect. I love it. Okay.
So next, 6.
Oh, I love this one. This is like my favorite ever because we're so different.
And we're going to probably have to, I think we should do a whole episode on our homeschooling spaces.
It's so crazy different. So you have to create a homeschool space, but don't recreate a public school environment. That's all I have to say. Yeah. Like, I know that you're going to want to put a desk maybe and then like line up all your kids and have a whiteboard kind of thing and teach. I would highly encourage you to stray as far away from that as possible. But my homeschooling space is my kitchen table, and I live in a tiny itty bitty house, so I have no choice. Like 1,000 square feet for 5 people. It's really small. And
but it's homey and it's so cozy.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. We've outgrown it. But it's not as organized as Christina because if you can tell, we're very different. And
I live with like an OCD type A, like minimalist husband who everything has to be clean.
I love it. I'm minimalist too, but I don't know. I know where everything is. So we do sit at the table for the most part, like when I'm doing instruction, but like we do devotional on the couch. Maybe we'll go outside. You know, we have that opportunity to move around. Our homeschool room is our kitchen area. Like for when they're little, I had some things up on the boards, like, you know, number lines and alphabets and that kind of thing. But, you know, it wasn't as clean. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I have hot glue like on my tablecloth mixed with crayons or something. So
you walk in and you can tell that you were a homeschooler.
Yeah. Or like some madness is happening in my house.
You go into my house and nobody would know that we homeschool.
Yeah, no.
Unless you open the one. So our homeschool space
she has
is
everything
wildly
in a
different.
Cabinet.
We have one cabinet in our dining room.
Yeah.
So we homeschool mostly in our dining room. Or like the older one, he likes to go to his room and he's able to because he can do
However, that. Ryan, I've flip-flopped it this year. He is focusing better with me. So like,
Zen will too, depending on the subject. Yeah. So I make him come out where he has to be like, I generally tell the kids, unless they're doing like reading or something, like he can do that in his room. Yeah. But Max has to be out with us at all times. Otherwise he gets...
Yeah, butterfly. He's like me.
Yeah,
I love
it. But we homeschool either at the dining room table or like one of the couches that we, you know, wherever they want to be is fine. But everything is in one cabinet. So there's just like this little cabinet and it's all closed off. You can't see it. But I also have older kids. So I feel like that also changes. Like if I had littles, you need more manipulatives when they're little. You need more things. Like my kids homeschool, I know, I've got cubbies full of textbooks and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, we don't do that anymore because
I get it.
Upper level.
There's a time and a season for it all.
There is. So that's why I feel like our spaces are vastly different, but we're also in really different spots for homeschooling. Mm-hmm. No, whereas you have one high schooler, I have practically 2.
I've got second grade, 4th or 5th grade, and high school. So it's like totally different.
Totally different. So you create a space that works for you and your family.
Yeah, and just make my other recommendation is make sure you have a space for all your utensils. Like the kids know where to go get a pen and a crayon and glue so that you're not being
wasting
asked constantly
time.
where these things are. They just go. And that dives into a self-driven learner. Like they're capable of doing it on their own, which is our end goal. So then 7, explore. Oh, this is fun.
This is good.
Explore homeschool. I'm trying not to laugh. Homeschool support groups or co-ops.
And this is how we met.
Yep.
Because Brittany started a co-op.
Yeah.
I love her for it.
I love my co-op. I love it. I love our co-op. I think it is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And we have a whole nother podcast on this. You have to make sure that you are like, first of all, why do you want to join a co-op? If it's not for you, don't do it.
Right.
That's
and
like,
what kind of co-op? Well, again, we're going to go into a
there's
whole
a
deep
lot
dive
of
on
those.
co-ops.
Co-ops do supplement your what you're doing at home, through socialization.
Right.
Our boys are like best friends, so they meet their peers, even if they're like a couple ages older or younger. But then families get together. Right. But you have to make sure it's a right fit for you because you don't want it to be a tangled mess. No. We won't go into that. We're both like, that's a different episode. All right. And number 8.
Enjoy the journey and remember the calling.
Yes.
So
you always have to come back, circle back around to why you're doing this in the first place.
And there are good days and bad days. We have days where I sit there and like, I'm honestly, I threaten my kids. I will put you back in public school if you don't stop.
I've done that before.
I totally threaten them. I'm like, do you want to go back?
We use that as like a consequence. I think it's hilarious.
Like, maybe that was bad parenting.
No, it's funny though because like Jace has never been in public school.
So I have
different. So I have Ryan who went to like through second 2.5, and Summer was in kinder, kind of like, and then Jace is just like,
what is public?
Yeah, and personality wise, they are very strong personalities, but he is totally does not care what anybody thinks about him, like at all. He is himself down to, and I hope it sticks with him because he didn't have that influence of like, hey, you got to wear Adidas shirts or Under Armour socks pulled up to your knees or like whatever is happening. And so, but you have to always circle back to why you did it. And for me, there was a terrible gut feeling. I'm not talking, I mean, like, when things are really wrong and you get this like sick feeling, like I don't want to take that job. That's what it was with me in school. I just it was this awful feeling. And I really think it was God telling me that I needed to do something different. So I just kept following it, even though I come from teachers, like my aunt's teacher, my uncle's teacher, and very structured. My dad was a physician. My mom was a nurse. So just a lot of that.
You really broke the mold.
It was like, what the heck is happening?
So many ways.
Yeah, I'm the black sheep though. So
that's all right.
It's okay. And always just come back to that calling because it is a good reminder of why you left.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Government schools.
Why we leave government schools.
Are you doing the quote?
Oh, am I doing the quote?
Wait. Oh, is it another Gatto? Wait a second.
Quote.
I thought I mixed them up. I do. I really do.
You do.
He's pretty awesome.
All right, sure. I'll do the quote.
Okay.
All right, here we go. As a writer, politician, scientist, and businessman, Benjamin Franklin.
Wait, I have to enter.
Probably said, "Hold my beer."
Patriotic.
I'm just saying.
So, just this is not planned. I just popped this in here. Didn't realize we were going to be all patriotic today, but we're talking about founding fathers. Okay, you have to start over.
All right, I'm going to start over.
Okay.
As a writer, politician, scientist, and businessman, Benjamin Franklin had few equals among the educated of his day, though he left school at 10. Boys like Andrew Carnegie, who begged his mother not to send him to school and was well on his way to immortality and fortune at the age of 13, would be referred to today for psychological counseling. Thomas Edison would find himself in special ed until his particular genius had been sufficiently tamed.
It's so true.
It's so true. So school was not meant for the out-of-box thinkers, the out-of-box learners, the exceptional kids who may have struggled in one area but were excelling in others.
Yeah. So
this is why we do it.
But actually, this is interesting. I always think back to when we were formed, when America was getting its roots, and what we thought education should be. And it wasn't a one-size-fits-all kind of model. It was, we're going to teach you a trade, and you're going to go off this way. But it was very different for each individual kid, each individual family, and the one-room schoolhouse thing was a good fit because it was smaller. But people that wanted to excel in certain things could.
I think of this as like when our founding fathers created the United States of America, individualized states that work together to make things better as a society. That's homeschooling. You individualize the learning for your kids to become part of society and better society, not just be mediocre through it.
Well, we can only progress if we are able to do that on our own. That's what I'm saying, is it kind of the boxed in mentality doesn't allow for good progression and challenge.
So 8 steps for homeschooling.
Yes.
We're going to link her amazing article, which has a lot more information on it, but it's not as hard as you think.
No, it's not.
It's not as hard as you think, because if you have guidelines of what to do and when to do it, it's just baby steps.
Yep. It's not as hard as you think, and you will always, it's so rewarding. So rewarding. Mm-hmm. I mean, we are able to travel, and my kids can do whatever they're interested in because of homeschooling.
Yep.
So, all right.
Signing
off.